Hey everybody, this is Barrett Lee coming. We're broadcasting live today from the Tremontaine Cafe here in Utica, New York. If you haven't been down to the Tram yet, it's a great spot, really good food. I personally recommend the chicken salad sandwich, one of my favorites. And it's run by the same cool people who bought you Virgo Bat Leo Frog years back. So if you live locally, come on down to the Tremontaine and grab some food and coffee. Also, great open mic on Sunday nights. But we're not here to talk about the Tram. We're here to talk about philosophy today. So, last week we covered the three traditional theistic proofs, or the arguments for the existence of God. And this week, we're coming to talk about religious experience. And particularly, we're going to be asking one question this week. And that is, to what extent are we justified in inferring objective reality from subjective experience when it comes to questions of religion? So another way of saying this, in maybe less technical language, is when we hear about people who have these religious experiences. So those who would say have a vision and see an angel, or if they are finding the Virgin Mary in their toast, or if they just get born again, or they've attained enlightenment, however this is articulated. To what extent can we say either, all right, these people are witnesses of the truth, that these people are actually getting in touch with some kind of supernatural reality, or as William James would call it, the absolute. To what extent are they doing that? And then to what extent could they just be crazy or hallucinating or making it all up in their heads? And we're going to be exploring three different perspectives on this. First, sorry, I just spilled my soda here. The first perspective that we're going to be looking at is the weak justification. We're also going to be looking at what we're going to call no justification, and finally what we call the strong justification. So to deal with it out of order, it's going to be strong, weak, and no, but we're going to be looking at it in a different order from that. To say that there's a strong justification for inferring objective reality from subjective experience sorry, I am sort of sitting in a puddle here. Can I borrow a couple napkins? Thanks. It's all right. I'll just wipe some things off as I talk here. When we say that we have a strong justification for inferring objective reality from subjective experience, this is the view that would say, okay, we are the folks who have these experiences, these visions, or these folks who have the supernatural contact. These folks are the messengers. They are seeing something that the rest of us either haven't seen or can't see, and we would do well to listen to them. We should take heed of their message and trust that these folks are guiding us to some sort of higher reality. To say that there is no justification is the exact opposite view. That's the view that says, all right, these folks are hallucinating, or they're seeing something, or they're crazy, and we really shouldn't take it seriously. Everything that's going on is something that's going on in their own heads. And the weak justification is sort of a middle ground in between the two that says, all right, maybe these folks are seeing something that the rest of us can't see, and they're receiving this message. Say the Virgin Mary appears to them and says, you should make a peanut butter sandwich on Thursday. Well, according to the view that we're calling the weak justification, then that person should make the peanut butter sandwich on Thursday, like the Virgin Mary told them to. But the rest of us don't necessarily have to take the vision or that message with the same seriousness. We can if we want, but we're not obligated to obey the command to make a peanut butter sandwich on Thursday if we don't want to, because, well, the vision wasn't ours. So, to jump right into things here, the first person we're going to look at is William James, and he argues for the weak justification. Before he gets into that, he talks about some of the different qualities of religious, or as he calls them, mystical experiences. This is taken from his book, The Varieties of Religious Experience, from 1902. It's a classic. You've got, in our textbook for the course, there's an excerpt of it in there. But if you have a chance to go and read the whole book, it's really worth the read. But the marks of mystical experience that James talks about, first is ineffability. when we say that a religious experience or a mystical experience is ineffable, what we mean is that it's something that can't be transferred or given over to somebody else. You have this experience, it belongs to you. No one else sees the vision or hears the voice or has the feeling of peace that you feel. That is given to you, and it can't be immediately transferred. If you had a video camera on the event, it wouldn't have recorded anything. So it is ineffable. It's sort of like being in love. So, sometimes when you're in love with someone and you're going, oh, that's my significant other, she or he they're just wonderful, they're just fantastic, the most perfect person in the world, and everybody else might be looking at that person going, oh my gosh, what are they thinking? Well, it doesn't matter what they think. What matters is what you think, because you're the person in love. And in the same way, that just like that feeling of love and attraction can't be transferred to another person, the experience of a mystical experience can't be transferred over. It is for that person. So that's number one, is it's ineffable. Number two, there's a noetic quality. What that means is that there's some kind of message or some kind of revelation or enlightenment. There's some kind of content from this experience that's supposed to be passed on to other people, even though other people can't experience the vision or the mystical experience themselves. Third is the quality of transiency, and that simply means that the experience doesn't last forever. The angel shows up, you have the vision, you hear the voice, it comes and it goes, and then you've got to get back to regular life. Then you've got to get back to the everyday world where things might not be as dramatic as they were during the vision, but as they say, that is life. And then the fourth mark of a mystical experience is passivity, that each of these experiences is a given. It's something that the person having the vision or having the experience, they receive it, but they're not making it happen in an explicit way. There's a story told of two monks, an older monk and a younger monk in the desert. And the younger monk says to the elder monk, "Holy One, is there anything I can do to advance my contemplation and to be one with God?" And the elder monk answers, "As little as you can do to make the sun rise in the morning." And so the student asks, "Then of what use are the spiritual exercises and the way that we follow?" And the old man says, "To make sure that you are awake when the sun begins to rise." And so, so the experience itself is not something you can make happen through your meditation exercises or through prayer or through religious observance, but it's something that happens to a person even though those exercises might play a role. And this is a belief that is commonly shared among people across religious lines. James also describes the different levels of mystical experience. That some can be pretty common and pretty simple. Like he talks about the experience of a word or an idea hitting home when something resonates with something inside of you. So that might be someone sitting in their mosque and hearing the imam preach something, and something that person says, or maybe a part of the reading from the Quran, it connects with something inside of them. It resonates, and something inside of that person goes, yeah, I get that. I'm connecting with it, and that's James would call that the most basic level of a mystical experience, the simplest form, and that can range all the way up to total detachment from one's senses. Here's a phrase from St. Teresa of Avila from the Christian tradition. She says, "Thus does God, when he raises a soul to union with himself, suspend the natural action of all her faculties." This is something that in a lot of religious circles is referred to as rapture. In other words, you're so caught up in the immediate presence of the holy or the absolute that you lose sense of all that's going on around you. Sort of like I did just now when I was recording this video and knocked my soda straight over. It is an identifiable psychosomatic phenomenon associated sometimes with hypnosis and hysteria, maybe more. Maybe there is something going on here, and maybe not. It's see, what more could I really say? It's sort of like if you ever really get into a good horror movie, and there's that scene when somebody's walking toward the closed door, little bit by little bit, and the music is building and building and building, and then there's always some jerk that'll come up behind you and grab your shoulders and go, ah! And then you jump, and you've got to change your pants afterwards, and it's really annoying, but that is sort of what Rapture is like. You're so invested in what's going on in front of you, and the illustration, it's the horror movie. In the case of what we're talking about here, it's this mystical experience that you kind of lose sight of the rest of the world around you, so that somebody can sneak up on you and play a joke on you, and nobody likes that guy, but they're around. So, those are the ranges of mystical experiences, from hitting home all the way up to rapture and detachment from one's senses. There's also some of the theoretic drift of mystical states that James talks about. He talks about what he calls the yes function, that there is this movement in the direction of optimism, that's sort of viewing things positively, and also monism, of kind of viewing the oneness of all things, the togetherness. He describes this as a movement from less to more, from smallness to vastness, from unrest to rest. This is captured beautifully in the lines of the hymn Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Here in the lines of this poem, you can see the author making that kind of transition, like James said, from less to more, from smallness to greatness, from unrest to rest. There's a kind of transformation that's going on as someone is having this spiritual experience. Another feature that's pretty common is that mystics and folks who have religious experiences often use the language of paradox to describe their experiences. So they'll talk about the silent sound or the teeming desert, and James talks about. He says it like this: this overcoming of all the usual barriers between the individual and the absolute, which is James's word for God, is the great mystic achievement. And so he's pointing to this, and the language of paradox is used because so often what's happening in these experiences, it either violates or transcends the common, shall we say, the rational categories of thought, and so it seems to violate everything. And so the language of paradox is really the only way to describe it. He goes on to talk about how authoritative is mystical experience. I'm going to try to do this really quick. As we said before, James argues for the weak justification, and what he says is a mystical experience authoritative? And he would say mystical states, when well developed, usually are, and have the right to be, absolutely authoritative over the individuals to whom they come. So, does this experience have any kind of authority? Yeah, it does, if you're having the experience. However, James says, no authority emanates from them which should make it a duty for those who stand outside of them to accept their revelations uncritically. And so, really, the most that these mystical experiences can do for the rest of us who don't see angels, we can take it in, but we're not bound to obey that experience in the same way as someone who actually has the experience. So if the Virgin Mary comes to you and tells you to make a peanut butter sandwich on Thursday, you had better go make a peanut butter sandwich on Thursday, but I'm not bound to make that sandwich in the same way because I didn't have the vision like you did. That's what James is trying to say. And so then, what good are these experiences if they're only authoritative for those who have them? What good are they to the rest of us? And James says, he says it like this. It says, these experiences break down the authority of the non-mystical or rationalistic consciousness, based upon the understanding in the senses alone. They show it to be only one kind of consciousness. They open the possibility of other orders of truth, in which, so far as anything in us vitally responds to them, we may freely continue to have faith. So it leaves us with open questions. and shows that rationalism is not the only game in town. And I need to end this video now because I'm about to run out of time, and YouTube won't let me pick it up. So I will see you in the next video.